Welcome to 3-to-Play DLC. With DLC, we break away from the traditional 3-to-Play games podcast format to bring you more varied gaming topics. Today, we are traveling back a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away to talk about Star Wars The Force Unleashed 2. Here to discuss this title is...
Jedi Master Tom.
And the apprentice, Josh. Press start.
What's up, Josh?
Oh, nothing. Just pulling up some notes that I have here that I slaved away on today for this lovely game that we're going to be talking about.
This is probably the most in-depth game we've ever had to cover on the show in terms of length and lore and just amount of gameplay hours to put into it. It was a challenge.
Do you know when you have a game that... when it finished was so perfect to bridge the gap between episode 3 and 4, you don't even need a sequel to it.
Yeah, it's perfect because the end of Force Unleashed 2, you find out, that's why Darth Vader was in prison at the end of A New Hope.
Yeah.
It just puts all the pieces together.
When I think of Darth Vader, I think of Darth Vader in prison.
Eating gruel sandwiches, gruel omelets, it's just, that's what life's like in prison for Darth Vader. I'll say, hey, spoilers for Force Unleashed 2, by the way.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Well, what spoilers are it? Because we got two different ways that this could end.
Oh, that's right. We only 50% spoiled this memorable turd for y'all.
Do you know... do you know what is very sad about this game right now?
Everything after the Xbox logo disappears is disappointing.
Okay.
And up through the end of the main credits.
This is one of the last games that LucasArts created.
Oh, I didn't consider that disappointment, damn it.
I'm going for more psychological disappointment right there, Tom. I'm sorry. So yes, The Force Unleashed 2, one of the last games created by LucasArts, RIP, never forget. Released October 26, 2010.
Yeah, multi-platform release, much like its predecessor. It got coverage on the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, PC, and even the little old Wii.
I'm going to actually talk about the Wii release of this game later in the podcast because I found some interesting facts out about that.
Okay, well, that'd be great to get to. But yeah, it is a... the formal definition, which I was surprised to hear, it is an action-adventure, which makes complete sense, but it's also considered a platforming game. And I guess, yeah, it counts as one because you're on linear levels and jumping and, navigating environments is required. It's just, I never really thought of it like that.
Well, I mean, think about the end boss fight.
A lot of jumping there.
So, yeah, this was released 2 years after The Force Unleashed, which I thought The Force Unleashed, one of the best Star Wars games I've played. Like, it's up there with... Episode 1 Pod Racer. I love the Episode 1 movie game. Okay. You got the Jedi Outcast games. Well, the Jedi
I don't think
Knight
it comes,
games. I mean, not the Jedi Outcast.
I don't think it comes anywhere close to something like KOTOR, but I think Force Unleashed 1 is a unique experience in its own right. So, The Force Unleashed was a project that Lucasfilm formerly developed in the mid-2000s. And what I mean by a Lucasfilm-backed project is every once in a while throughout the history of Star Wars as a franchise, George Lucas himself would either back or get involved with a kind of multimedia project where he would acknowledge something as like a significant part of the Star Wars canon. There's another notable example of this. It was called Shadows of the Empire. I'm sure, Josh, I don't need to explain that to you what it is, but It was a Lucas-endorsed story that took place between the films Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, and it involved telling that story through books, comic books, video games, graphic novels, etc. And it was a big success. So they did a couple more of these throughout the lifespan of George Lucas running Lucasfilm, and the Force Unleashed project can be kind of considered that last hurrah of Lucas getting directly involved with the canon expansion in the years before Star Wars as a property was sold to Disney.
I like that they took a lot of things from Lucas's original vision of Star Wars, like the fact that your main character's name is Star Killer. the original name of Luke Skywalker. But yeah, the game was you were Darth Vader's hidden apprentice from the Emperor.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool idea overall. You realize that there was more to just the dark side out there, and you kind of turned your back on the dark side to go over to the Jedi pathway, which Vader didn't like, but
Nope.
you know,
Didn't like it all.
Nope.
Yeah, you fall in love, you go on adventures, and you have this character who kind of finds redemption and martyrs himself, and in dying to save some notable characters from the grips of the Empire, he inspires the birth of the rebellion, which we come to know in the original trilogy. So through a novel, which it's still on my bookshelf, the Force Unleashed novel, and this video game series, and I think there might have been a graphic novel. This was Lucasfilm telling a story that they wanted to use to bridge the gap, as you said, between Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, and Episode 4, A New Hope.
Yeah.
So Force Unleashed ends with Starkiller, the protagonist, dying. Well, you can have two endings based off of a moral choice system, but like the true quote-unquote canon ending is he gives himself up and he's dead. So when they announced this, I was like, wait, what? How did you feel initially when you heard about this?
I was a little confused. When I first thought about it, I thought they were going towards the dark side ending because a lot of the DLC for the first game was based off of the dark side ending. So I was like, okay, like that made a lot of sense if they made a sequel based off of you being the new Darth Vader or the new big baddie in the Star Wars universe. Yeah. Then more information came out and it was like, oh, you're Starkiller again?
Mm-hmm. Which is confusing. I liked what you were pitching there, and what's interesting about it is that like that could have been a fun thing that would have been just a one-off, because it clearly couldn't have tied into the canon, right. having Starkiller become brainwashed and then go after and hunt down all the classic heroes we know from the original movies. Obviously that just would have been like an Elseworlds kind of story. But this one just seemed just as confusing, because it's like, if this is supposed to still be canon, where are we going with him coming back to life? Like, what does that mean,
Right. But yeah, the game takes place 6 months after the first game. So there's a little bit of a time gap there. And a year before A New Hope. Which is weird, because I thought The Force Unleashed ended right before A New Hope.
I guess not. They can retcon whatever they want, I guess.
So the Empire is trying to build a Starkiller clone on Kamino, which is featured in Attack of the Clones.
And is this, to date, this is the only major kind of story where Kamino's brought back?
Yeah, as of right now.
To my knowledge. Which I thought was cool when I did play the game. Seeing Darth Vader on Kamino, it's like, it's a nice little... It's a nice little kind of fan servicey, moment in a way.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, apparently the cloning process is still imperfect for creating Jedis.
Yeah, he's all weird.
So the game starts up, and you're in a training session for Darth Vader, and there is a hologram of Juno that appears, and Starkiller kind of freaks out because he doesn't know what to do, so he actually doesn't attack the hologram, which causes a failed training session, and Vader is not pleased.
Vader is a bros before hoes kind of guy. He doesn't understand why Starkiller is still crushing on Juno, but clearly this clone, in however they're trying to recreate the original Starkiller, still has feelings for Juno, who was the love interest of the first game, and it's messing with Vader's plan. He's like, come on, guy.
Starkiller gets a vision that he wonders what's going to happen to him now that he failed the training session. He gets a vision that Darth Vader's going to kill him. So he's like, nope. He decides to just blow a hole through the floor, because that makes sense.
He blows... I think it's fair where I could say he blows a hole just through Kamino. I mean, the opening of this game is just ridiculous force powers over the top. It's entertaining though. I'll say that.
Yeah, it had a pretty cool scene at first when you're kind of flying down the side of the building, and you're kind of dodging stuff as you're going through. Like the TIE fighters are coming after you and stuff like that.
There's some TIE fighters who are just like, on their morning patrols, just like, and you just force grab them and rip them out of the sky. It's like,
And then you land, and then that's when things start to get a little for me, where you pretty much start the game up with all the powers that you had at the end of the first one. Mm-hmm. You are so ridiculously overpowered in this game.
It's like an inverse Metroid.
Yeah. Like, they just said, you know what? Fuck it. You're getting everything now.
Force push, have it. Force choke, take it.
The only thing you don't get right away is the Jedi mind trick.
But yeah, Josh, tell them about Jedi mind trick, because it's probably one of the most unintentionally hilarious things in the game.
So you can go ahead and you can take over a stormtrooper, and you can have him either shoot his friends if you want to try to help you as an ally, or you can say, you know what, fuck it, jump off the building.
It's so satisfying.
You know what, buddy? I'm here. I'm part of the good guys now. You know, just jump off the building. Just do it. I'm not going to talk you down from the ledge. I'm going to just provide you with the assistance that you need now.
Robbing people of their free will has never been more fun.
So this opening level pretty much gives you the feel for how the rest of this game is. It's go down a hallway, kill a couple stormtroopers. Go down another hallway, kill a couple stormtroopers. Go down another hallway, kill a couple stormtroopers.
Do you ever kill stormtroopers and then go down a hallway?
Well, there was one time there was a robot at the end of the hallway, but it just turned out that there was more stormtroopers that came through, and I had to go down that hallway to kill those stormtroopers.
Well, I'll say I know exactly what you're getting at, but I have to give them the credit for that visual variety. Every once in a while, like you said, they do break up the stormtroopers with some robots, but then they give you right back to the stormtroopers.
Yeah,
so it's
yeah.
like,
But to break up that nonstop action fest, you get a Crash Bandicoot inspired scene escaping a ship firing at you from outside of a building. And don't worry, that's going to happen multiple times in this game.
Josh, I'm starting to actually kind of think you don't like sequences that take places on the side of buildings. You didn't like the hotel in Arkham Origins. Now you don't like this. I'm like, I just think you don't like the sides of buildings, Josh.
I don't know. It's just when it has to be repeated over and over again. Like, you know, in Arkham Origins, you were in that hotel for at least 3 hours just climbing that building.
Best 3 hours of my life. Do you remember what the boss fight on Camino is?
Yeah. On Camino, it was catch a TIE fighter out of midair, build a bridge, walk over the bridge. There's 2 ATST-like machines waiting for you. And then you go full Kratos mode. And you just get your 2 lightsabers out, and you have just nonstop. When you thought you were overpowered, they were like, no, you get God mode now. Where you just electrocute everything that's in your, like, a 10-foot vicinity of you. And you're just fucking chopping up stuff left and right. And it's just like, I'm not even taking damage right now because I'm just so overpowered. You're taking ATSTs out in like 4 hits. It's so ridiculous. And then they drop like 2 carriers of stormtroopers down. I'm like, really? You're fucking kidding me right now?
It kind of makes an argument for why Disney was right to make all of this stuff non-canon, because it makes every other character look not impressive by association. You know?
Right. So you kill all the stormtroopers, and then you're like, oh, there's Darth Vader's TIE fighter. And you go walk up by the TIE fighter, and then he turns around, and Darth Vader comes out of the door, and he gives him like a weird smirk, like a half grin.
Like a badass, like, catch you later, old man.
Yeah, and then he gets in his TIE fighter and steals his TIE fighter. First
So
off,
rude.
that guy just committed Grand Theft Auto.
Right? I hope they throw him away for that.
That is not the way of the Jedi.
That's a custom TIE fighter, by the way. I don't know if anybody knows this, but like the wings, they go slanted.
They are
like the
not
other ones.
as cool as the TIE Interceptors, though.
Pew, 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 pew.
So yeah, you steal Darth Vader's TIE fighter, and then you leave. And then you arrive on Canto Nemoidia, which the Nemoidians are in there. So big shout out to my boy Newt Gunray. On this planet, there's some type of coliseum where General Coda, who was your master in the first game, or sidekick?
Yeah, He was your Obi-Wan,
Yeah.
the old dude who teaches you stuff.
So he's been fighting in this Coliseum for 7 days straight, kind of as a prisoner. Then you have this guy, Baron. They didn't give you a first name or last name to him. He just seemed kind of like an Imperial higher up.
Yeah, he's like an Imperial officer who's like been on this planet so long that he's kind of just gotten into the planet's culture and traditions, which are apparently gladiatorial death matches.
Which Jeff Goldblum did it better in Thor Ragnarok.
Oh yeah. He's a poor man's grandmaster. Absolutely.
So it starts off in the level, and you run into a different enemy other than a stormtrooper, which are Sith Acolytes. Which I was like, oh, this is cool. These are like, bad guys that have the Force, but apparently can't use lightsabers.
They're just dark Force users.
Yeah,
like Snoke, See,
they're
they were
the Death Eaters of the Sith.
They were getting us ready for Snoke before we even met him.
So as you make your way closer to the Coliseum, you run into yet another Crash Bandicoot scene, running away from a ship, shooting at you. You fight more stormtroopers.
Don't forget you surf on that ship too. You're like near.
So yeah, you jump on a train, and you proceed to take out more TIE fighters from on top of it. So you can see there's a common theme on every level so far. It's hallway, stormtrooper, robot, TIE fighters run away from a ship.
And don't forget the QuickTime events.
Oh, boy, are there QuickTime events. If this game couldn't be any more like God of War, you're wrong.
If I had to take a shot every time there's a QuickTime event in this game, I would have pickled my liver within the first level.
So you take down the ship that's been shooting at you during the Crash Bandicoot scenes that I keep mentioning by playing a really lazy game of tennis where it's just like, I'm going to shoot a missile at you, but you're going to bounce it back at me. I'm going to shoot a missile at you, and you're going to bounce it back at me.
The Ganondorf plan,
Yeah. And then you arrive at the Coliseum. When you arrive, Baron sends out the Gorog, which is, at first you think it's a Rancor, which I was like, oh, sweet. I love Rancors. They're pretty cool.
That was a really great tease. Yeah, tell them about that.
Okay, so he's like, send out the Gorog, and we're like, oh yeah, we're waiting for him. And then the gates open up, and then out comes a Rancor, and you're like, yeah, this Rancor has 2 giant nostrils rather than a normal Rancor, which has 2 smaller nostrils. And he comes walking out, and your character's like all smirky, like, oh, I'm going to take this son of a bitch out, because in the first one, there was like an entire level dedicated to Rancor fighting. And then a giant hand comes up and just crushes it like it was nothing. And this thing is like, well, first off, the Rancor fit like it was like a pea in the palm of its hand. And this was the Gorog, which is this giant creature who had apparently waist up and only arms that you could hit because you couldn't see its legs till later in the game.
That's how big it was. Tip of the iceberg.
So you go ahead, fight its hands a little bit, and then it's like, oh, we gotta figure out another way, because what you're doing right now, apparently your lightsaber can't cut through any parts of its body.
Its hide's too thick. Can I just say you made a God of War comparison earlier, and it's fair because this is where it totally just becomes unapologetic about the fact that this is a God of War game with Jedi.
Yeah. You are a dual-bladed fighter, or just warrior, taking out these giant creatures that are twice... Actually, this thing is like 100 times the size of you, where it doesn't seem feasibly possible that you're actually going to be able to destroy it. But you prevail. How do you prevail this time? You destroy the supports that hold up this floating city.
Which is kind of a dick move, but, all right, fine, we'll go with it. You know, all those Nemoidians fall into their death. That arena probably costs billions in taxpayer dollars, but fine. You knock the city down.
Yeah. You take out the supports, you fall through a window or something like that, and Baron's in there, and he's going to try to shoot you, but the Gorog eats him, and then grabs Coda, and they both fall out of the building. And right back to the first scene of the game, you're diving down a building. You're diving down to nothingness. And it's, once again, another repeat.
And let's make it clear: this arena was apparently built 100,000 miles above the surface of this world, in the upper stratosphere, because you can seemingly just never stop falling.
So when you're diving down after the Gorog, you're actually just diving down to save Coda. You get really close to him, and then you start fighting him again. And it's like, oh yeah, you're just both free falling. Let's just have another boss fight. So it ends a really cool way, though, where you build up your force stash that you've had throughout the first. Actually, we're only a level and a half into the game right now. So the force stash that you've had for a level and a half, and you force dash yourself through the Gorog's body and kill it, which is pretty cool. It's different in the whole realm of Star Wars. You don't see anything along those lines.
Yeah.
So as you're falling, Coda calls for the ship, for his ship, and it goes in and it catches you guys from falling to your death, or falling to it comes back around and you're going to fall again. I don't know how this planet works.
We never see the planet again in the history of Star Wars, so I guess it doesn't matter.
It's true. But then on the ship, Starkiller's freaking out because he just wants to see Juno.
Mm-hmm.
He just wants to see Juno.
He's a really big Ellen Page fan.
Yeah, I was going to say he's a huge Michael Cera fan.
Mm-hmm. He really loves that charming twee acoustic soundtrack, and he just thinks Jason Bateman's the biggest scumbag in cinema history.
So meanwhile, while Starkiller is going to the theaters to see Juno, Darth Vader hires Boba Fett to capture Juno, hoping that it's going to bring Starkiller back to him so he can kill him. But what are the chances of this cynical plan working, Tom?
Well, I mean, you see how stupid the plan is when we catch up a little bit later in the game, and Darth Vader's like, Boba Fett, you've brought me what I wanted, and all of a sudden there's this pregnant teenager in front of Darth Vader, and he's like, what's this? And Boba Fett's like, you told me to go get Juno, and Darth Vader, slaps his head, and he's like, Boba.
Boop, boop, boop. And he puts his fingers up to his cheeks like, me.
We're still getting paid.
She's no good to be dead. So while Darth Vader hires Boba Fett to go capture Juno, Starkiller is like, I'm just going to go to this random planet that people are talking about. And it just so happens to be Dagobah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the shortest level of the entire game.
And it still somehow counts as a level.
Yeah. You go in, watch a cutscene, and then leave.
Yeah.
But Yoda's there.
Well, the dynamic gameplay really sets it apart. You walk from the exit ramp of your ship 10 feet to Yoda, cutscene, and then you're done at Dagobah.
That's it. Yeah. Wrap it up.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really cool cutscene though, because it shows I can't remember the name of the tree, but it's the tree that Luke goes into in Empire.
The spooky tree.
Yeah, the spooky tree. The dark and mysterious tree that they have there on Dagobah, where he sees a bunch of clones of himself dying all around him. And it's followed by a vision of Juno being attacked and shot. And then Starkiller's like, oh man, I gotta get out of here. I gotta go find her now because she's in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
After Dagobah, Starkiller and Coda fly up to find Juno's ship, the Rebel cruiser Salvation. Mm-hmm. And they notice that there's no damage done to the ship. There's no attack spin on the ship. So he's a little confused about what's going on right now. And guess what follows on this level, Tom?
Corridors and enemies?
Yes, but what type of enemies?
Oh, don't tell me. Rain soldiers.
Oh, close.
Oh?
Robot spiders.
Oh, yeah, the classic Star Wars standby.
Yes. When you think of, such iconic Star Wars villains, you think of, the Mousers.
Mm-hmm. I think of top 3 Star Wars villains. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Ready? Newt Gunray.
Okay.
The probe droid for the beginning of Empire Strikes Back.
Yep.
Spider robots.
You've hit all 3 of them.
It's an objectively true list.
So going through all these hallways, after hallways, after hallways, after hallways.
What comes after hallways?
Oh, there's another hallway.
Oh, okay, thank you.
You see Juno knocked out on the ground on the other side of a force field, and he's like, how am I going to get through it? I'm extremely overpowered. There's no way I can get through this force field. So I have to go backwards through all those hallways that I just came to find an alternative way in.
It's so infuriating.
So after you go through these hallways, you actually find a new enemy, which are these souped up Sith Acolytes. But don't worry, they're not in it for much longer. They're actually in this scene and then one more time at the very end, and then that's all you see of them. But then you get to Juno. And then you get to Juno, and then Boba Fett's carrying her away to Slave One. So you chase her down. But then the ship starts to blow up. And it's like, oh, this doesn't make sense. Who's attacking the ship? I played through this game again. I still don't remember who the hell's attacking the ship. Ship just starts to start blowing up at parts.
Isn't it a giant robot? Isn't there a boss fight in this level?
There is. Yes, it's the Terror Walker.
The Terror Walker.
Yes.
Come on.
Yep. Yeah, before you leave the ship, to go back to Kamino, you have to fight the Terror Walker. And it's actually a really long fight, which is unnecessarily long because it's just a giant spider walking robot.
And it's terrible.
But yeah, after that, you arrive back at Kamino.
The level we started on.
Yep.
Three levels ago.
But it's okay because you have the Rebel Alliance with you and they're going to attack the Empire and it's going to be a surprise attack. However, Boba Fett knows that you're coming with everybody. So the Empire's waiting for you already when you get there and everyone just starts getting trashed.
Boba Fett? Where?
So you have to run through your ship again that you were just on in the last level, through more hallways, killing more stormtroopers, killing some more Sith apprentices, just to get out of the ship. But there's a really cool scene towards the end where you have to blow up a Star Destroyer. It is not as cool as blowing up a Star Destroyer in the first game, where you have to tear it from the sky, or you actually tear it down from space.
It's much less cool.
Yes. Ship's falling apart, and you have to get to Kamino, so guess what you do, Tom?
Do you fall?
You do. You jump out of the ship, and you fall into the surface.
It's like poetry, like it rhymes.
But you pull debris out from side to side as you're going down. So it's kind of like you're swimming in the air.
Oh, how graceful.
So you'll pretty much land right back to where you started on the game. Like, almost exactly where you started in the first level. And it's just so annoying. So Coda's trying to get Starkiller to wait for him so they have some backup. So, because all Starkiller wants to do is go after Vader because he has his lady.
Wants
Juno.
to smack him up.
Yep. Starkiller says he doesn't care about the war. All he cares about is Juno. So he's putting hoes before bros, which is not cool in the Rebel Alliance or the Empire.
Nope.
So hallway after hallway, again and again, robots and stormtroopers this time.
Oh, both at once?
You get to a platform area where you're just jumping from like clone disc to clone disc. Like it's weird. Like
the big like circle things from the movie.
Yeah, it looks very similar to the end of episode 1 when they're fighting. When you have the giant pillars.
The giant energy columns and stuff. Yeah.
So I guess there were like clone canisters that are in there. But
fill of clone juice,
Do you know when you play a lot of games or you watch a lot of movies, you get this movie was great all the way up until the ending. When you watch a horror movie, it's like, oh, this was a really good build up, and then the ending happens and you're like, oh, that was kind of a letdown. This game, I think for me, was the opposite.
Oh?
So when you get all the way up to the top of this giant area with all those clone canisters to it, you go through a door at the top of the area. And like I said, I think this is probably the coolest part of the game. So you get into the hallway, and then Coda's like, oh, I can't hear you in the comm links anymore, and his goes dead. And then you just hear Vader's breathing. And it's like, it's really cool because it's like, he's there, but it's very reminiscent to Empire Strikes Back, where Luke was going down the hallway and you knew Vader was in that hallway somewhere.
Yeah. But you don't know until his breathing kicks in.
Right. So you're walking down and you hear Vader's breathing, and it's so cool. The audio to it is so good. And then like he starts to have a hallucination, and like the room starts to like break and kind of crumble around him. And then Vader comes out of just nowhere and attacks him. And it was like, oh shit, like that was a really good build up. And then like you guys have like, you lock lightsabers, and then you break apart, and then Vader's gone. And it's like, okay, was that just in his head? Did it actually happen? But then like he's yelling to Vader, and Vader's like just toying with him now, because he knows that he's starting to lose it. And I thought that was probably one of the coolest parts of the game, just the build up to that, which is like, why can't this happen throughout the whole game? If he's going to have this if he's going to have these hallucinations now, why didn't he have it throughout the game when you were playing? See things that aren't there or something along those lines.
It would have been a really good mechanic, yeah. But nope.
Nope. Then you arrive in a room filled with clone Star Killers throughout the room, just to kind of further progress the story of, are you the real Star Killer? Are you just a clone? What's going on?
Yeah, everyone loves those kind of stories. That's why the Clone Saga is the most popular Spider-Man arc.
Yes. You leave the room, and then it comes to the final battle, which you talked about platforming, Tom. You want to send it into the final battle?
I was a fool to forget this. You're talking about movies that it's super similar to. It's actually kind of similar to the Emperor Yoda fight from the end of Revenge of the Sith. You're jumping across a bunch of circular platforms, throwing crap at each other, having a lightsaber duel. Oh, got to jump to the next platform, you know?
Yeah, very reminiscent to that, which when I think of Darth Vader, I think of platforming.
Oh, yeah. He seems like such an agile guy. I mean, his legs must work really well.
So you're fighting Darth Vader, jumping from platform to platform, fighting clones of yourself at the same time, too, to get to Darth Vader. And it's just...
They're all gooey and like bleh and gross.
Yeah. So when you think you get to the end and you think you got Vader, defeated, he's like, oh, hey, look at this. And he brings out Juno, and he lifts her up in the air, and he's like, well, bow before me or she's going to die. And he's like, oh, I'm not going to bow, blah, 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 blah. And I think he starts to bow or something like that, or he does bow. And Vader's like, all right. And he just throws Juno out the window. And I was like, oh.
Because Vader's a dick.
Yeah, I like that. That's my Darth Vader. Now, filled with the Kratos rage from earlier in the game, you attack Darth Vader, and boy, do you keep just attacking him and attacking him and attacking him with no consequences to yourself at all.
Vader's slowly like, I regret this decision.
So, Tom, when you're down there and you have that Kratos rage, how bad do you mess up Vader?
Oh, you mess him up for life, son. You go out in QuickTime Mania. Again, all the OP force moves, you just take them all out on Vader. You cut his hand off, which is like... How many times in this series does that guy lose hands? I'm kind of wondering if that's just like annoyance for him, or if he just gets over it at some point. Like, oh, again with the hand. And then you ultimately just destroy him with Force Lightning. A lot more Force Lightning than the Emperor used on him in Return of the Jedi. I guess the excuse is like, oh, Vader was still relatively fresh and fleshy at that point, so he could absorb it. But, whatever. Consistency, who cares? So you mess him up, and then it's like, okay, this is it. I'm going to kill you. You've ruined my life. I'm some kind of gooey, weird clone. Gonna kill you. And then Kodo shows up, and that's when we get the moral choice ending.
You have the dark side ending, or you have the light side ending.
So, Josh, let's describe each ending, and then try to guess what each one of us picked.
Okay.
On the first playthrough.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So, the light side ending is Starkiller shows mercy to Vader, And then you find out that Juno didn't die. She survived that fall because everyone in this game can survive dramatic falls. And they arrest Vader and they put him in the ship and they tie him up in this weird, like, Hannibal Lecter style rig. And Starkiller's like, you're going to be put on trial and you're going to pay for all the things you've done. And Vader's just like, as long as Juno's around, I still have a way to mess with you, bro. So whatever, bring it. And then Juno and Starkiller get in the cockpit and they're like, set course for our happy future together. But right before they can do that, what do you see flying behind them? Slave One. So their happy future, are they going to get it? Or is Boba Fett going to mess it up? Who knows? It's unresolved. Boba. It's a little cliffhanger for future adventures.
And then you have the dark side ending.
Mm-hmm.
Which you go to kill Darth Vader.
Yep.
And as you go to strike him down, a lightsaber goes through your chest. Who could it be? But yourself. You fall to the ground and start to die out. And Darth Vader is like, oh, you are a perfect version of the clone that I've been trying to create. And then you die looking at Juno, who died from the fall. And that's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just a downer kind of, in the same way that the dark side ending of Force Unleashed 1 was a non-canon, just like, shocker. The same thing with this game. It's just like another, what's the most like, oh my god, ending we could throw here that won't tie into anything, but it'll still be, I guess cool. And yeah. And the downloadable, what I think is interesting about each game is that the light side ending sets you up for the next story, but the dark side ending sets you up for the DLC. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so I'm gonna guess, Josh, that on your first playthrough you picked the dark side ending.
I did.
Okay. So what did you think when you got that reveal that there was an actual perfect Starkiller clone?
I looked at it and I was like, well, so if this is a dark side ending, I don't know. It doesn't make sense because how does it fall into the Force Unleashed story, bridging the gap between episode 3 and 4? It just doesn't make sense. Like, why would you die to have another clone of you that's never mentioned again in the franchise? Like, if you were going to die, just stay dead. The whole time I was playing the game, I was like, I don't understand why I'm playing through as Starkiller right now.
Yep.
And it's just, I was just so confused at the end. I was like, you know what? Good. Juno's dead. I'm dead. But fuck, I'm still alive. So am I going to be is there's going to be a third one? Hopefully not, because I didn't want a second one. And I was like, now I have to go back and I have to replay the end battle again just to see what the light side ending is. Uh-huh. And if it's more confusing than what I just saw here, I have absolutely no idea. So, Tom, I'm hoping that when you played through the first time, you picked the light side ending.
I did. So, okay. Kind of thankfully, this was predictable. But yeah, I did pick the light side ending. And my reaction to it was just kind of equal confusion to the way you've summarized it. It's like, so the rebels got Darth Vader and put him in space jail. There better be a sequel to this because I don't understand how you expect us to just roll with this. Like, this is a huge plot development that needs to be resolved before we get into A New Hope, which is supposed to be the lead up into. So yeah, that was an interesting ending, and it all just kind of comes down to like the fact that this game didn't get a follow up.
No.
Do you want to get into the aftermath?
Yeah. So the game received a lot of mixed reviews. I think
That's
highest
generous.
I think the highest score it received was an 8 out of 10 from Games Radar.
Oh yeah, the well-known publication Games Radar.
Yeah. But man, there was just just the fact that, like we just talked about here, there's what, 3.5 levels in this game.
Yeah, and it's kind of even like Camino twice, Gladiator Planet, Rebel Ship. So, and then Dagobah is begrudgingly a level. It is so short. And not only is it short, but like it would be even shorter if you didn't have to deal with all the padding used to make the levels longer than they actually are.
Mm-hmm.
I got this via Gamefly in 2010, and I beat it and returned it within like a 7-hour span. Like, opened it, played it, put it back in my mailbox, and I was just like, wow, thank God I didn't buy this.
I know I got it when it came out, and man, did it burn. Because I got it, sat down, played it, beat it that day, and it took maybe at most. Now, I didn't do all the like trials and stuff like that that's inside the game. I just went through and I beat it in maybe 5 hours. And I was just like, that's it. I just spent $60 for that.
It's kind of almost an expansion pack, really.
Absolutely. It would have been perfect as a continuation. Like I said earlier, it could have been a perfect continuation to the dark side ending of the last game.
Yeah. It's rough. And like, I remember way back in 2010 when the initial trailers for this were dropping, you texting me and just us having these conversations about like, well, how is this going to work? And in the end, it just didn't work, you know?
No.
And this sold poorly too. Let's not forget that. I mean, you think anything with Star Wars on it is just going to sell like crazy because everyone loves that brand name, but this did not do well.
Yeah, it finished under expectations. I know in the first like 2 weeks, it sold like 500,000 copies. But like, then it just disappeared because everyone, the word got out. And then people are like, oh, I'm not going to buy this game at this price. I'm just going to wait till it drops.
And I'm sure there were people like you and I who weren't even sure of it to begin with. So once that word of mouth spread, it was like, all right, nope.
Yeah. So I'm going to go back on a comment that I made earlier talking about the Wii version of the game.
Yes, I played this on the 360, so I have no idea what's going on with the Wii version.
As did I, but doing some research on this and seeing what other people were saying, apparently the Wii version of the game is the superior version of this game.
When has that ever been said?
I know. Well, you heard it here first. The Wii controller scheme, now let's just say that it would not work for a game like this. But they did their best to focus on the precise controls of it. So I give them props for that. But the Wii exclusive Force Rage powers puts the game's protagonist Starkiller into a bullet time mode exclusive. So instead of going into Kratos mode, it actually went into bullet time mode.
What?
The Wii version also had a Force Sight power not included in other platforms as well. So you can actually see like through walls and other stuff, I believe.
So you can see what's in the next hallway before you get to it?
Yeah, you can see Stormtroopers in the next hallway.
What an advantage.
So the next two things I'm going to say, Tom, are probably going to blow your mind when I say them to you. The first one is the Wii version had a multiplayer mode that was inspired by the Outfoxes, in which 4 players can challenge each other in a fighting style combat game.
Okay.
So I want to say it's very similar to Smash Brothers, or if it's 2-on-2 in like Mortal Kombat style. But I'm pretty sure it from what this is saying, all 4 people can just challenge each other at one time.
All right. That seems like a bit of a cluster given this game, but okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
The Wii version had an extra story-based level on Dagobah.
What?
That is not presented in the HD versions of this game, making the plot of the Wii game slightly different from the HD versions.
Why? They did that in Force Unleashed 1. The Wii and PS2 ports got an extra story mission that the more advanced consoles didn't, and now they do it again. Like, why? I don't get it.
Absolutely no idea. But when I saw that, I was like, out of all the versions of the game to get more story out of it, you get the Wii version of it. I was just like, okay. Like,
Maybe it was just cheaper to finish for the Wii. I don't know.
I don't know. That Dagobah level in the HD versions or the Xbox 360 and PS3 versions and PC versions, like, I guess they just couldn't handle more than 10 steps on Dagobah.
There was too many pixels on Yoda. He was so dense. There were so many layers.
So, Tom, I know we're probably going to both agree on this, but what's your overall take on Star Wars The Force Unleashed 2?
This game is like, when people talk about abusing the iconography of Star Wars to make a quick buck, like cheap, desperate, appeals to what we like about Star Wars, I think this is like what I would consider the primest example of it. It's a sequel that isn't justified in its own existence. It's not really a great story. It's a stale game that recycles everything from the first game, and not just recycle it, but it stretches it to its thinnest point possible, and it's unforgivably short for the price tag. It's bad. It's bad.
I'm going to agree with you on a lot of things here, Tom, and I honestly believe, I mean, for the price that you paid for this game and what you got from it, is clearly not worth it. It should have just been a DLC expansion for the first game, or they should have added more to it. You know, they could, like I said earlier, they could have just made an entire game based off of the dark side of the first one. You go through trying to kill all of the main characters from the original trilogy, and you would have been good.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So we'll go and try to finish this off here by talking about the sequel that came.
That would have been.
It could have. But during an interview back in February 2013, Lucasfilms was considering the development of Star Wars The Force Unleashed 3 for the next generation of video game consoles, the PS4, Xbox One, and the amazing Wii U. Ooh. However, LucasArts closed shortly after due to the Walt Disney Company purchasing them, and I don't believe we're ever going to see a Force Unleashed 3.
And honestly, like,
would you even want to see it? Like, given the leaked plot summary that was discussed in 2015, it would have been Starkiller and Darth Vader teaming up to fight the Emperor. I don't know.
No. Like, they're just grasping for straws.
Yeah.
I don't want to be too negative on this game because, like I said, towards the end, there's that really good scene that's just so worth it. And, like, the artwork is great in the game. Like, the graphics are really good. You can tell, it's hitting, like, the PS3 and the Xbox 360 at its, like, highest when it comes to graphical achievements at point in times. But then there are times where it's just, there's just not, the game's empty.
Yeah.
There's just so much more that could have came from it, but
yeah, I don't know what they would have done with the third one, but this left such a sour taste in my mouth. I'm just like, guys, I'm sorry. I'm sure you're all passionate about it. It's just, you burned me.
For those of you listening right now, don't play this game.
Just listen to this podcast and you're done. You need to experience anything else.
You've heard the beginning, middle, and ending to this game. If you want to play a really good Star Wars game, honestly, play The Force Unleashed 1. It's a perfect bridge to gap to Episode 3 and Episode 4. If you want to play another one, there's the Rogue Squadron series. There's KOTOR. There's the Jedi Knight series, especially Jedi Outcast and Jedi Academy.
And it's not even like worth it on a story level either. There's nothing to get from this. It's easily the most unsatisfying Star Wars entry that's ever been produced, in my opinion.
Yeah, very, very bland story. You can really see that it was rushed a lot, but On the list of games that we've covered during the DLC episodes, you think this is the worst of the three?
To date, yeah, this is the worst one we've covered.
Yeah. I mean, I shit on Arkham Origins a lot, but at least there was some substance inside that game. Now, it was missing a lot. It was missing a lot in that game, but this was just... It was just empty, and when I was done with it, I was like, man, I felt like...
Arkham Origins is the same kind of like desperate cash grab where they're trying to stretch something out as far as they can, but it's at least got a little bit more meat on its bones than this does, you know?
Yeah, very rarely do I play a game and finish it and feel like I didn't accomplish anything. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly how I felt with this game.
Well, this game literally takes you in a circle, you know, like story-wise, it's like start on Camino, like, you know, oh, we can't develop a final level, just take them back to Camino.
Yep. Any last words, Tom?
The Force is very weak with this one. It's got a very low midichlorian count. Throw it out a window.
Oh my god. Throw it out a window like Mace Windu.
Ah!
Thanks for joining us on this episode of 3 to Play DLC. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Please be sure to like, review, and share these episodes so you can spread the word of gaming goodness. And be sure to come back because our podcast is less disappointing than The Last Jedi.
Nah, boo.